Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode of Breaking Barriers Now. I'm your host, Jody Watkins, and today I have my amazing friend and collaboration colleague, I guess you could call her, Kate Gallihugh. Kate and I met through the Convene Communities platform, and we are basically just collaborating with others to help grow this thing out and help more people. So if you're someone out there that would like to spread your story and share your story, definitely connect with us and allow us to help you on your journey. I will allow Kate to tell you what she's doing, but she's going to come in and tell us her backstory and how she kind of got where she is today, just like we normally do. First off, I just want to say, Kate, thank you for your time. Time is our most valuable asset. So when people give me their time, I'm like, thank you.
Oh, you are so welcome, friend. It's an honor to be here. And, I truly enjoy collaborating with other people who are on a mission to help serve others, bring them to their better version. So my backstory, I am a former pediatric physician assistant. I'm a mother of 2 adolescent boys. And, in the midst of motherhood and career, I kind of hit a big low point in my life where I lost myself in a service industry in medicine where I was, really busy at our pediatric clinic that I worked in, and then having 2 little athletes and running from the office to the ball field. I really stopped taking care of myself. I had a health fitness background. You and I have a lot in common, and you even went to PA school. There's so many different sectors of our story that intersect. But anyway, I knew what to do. I just did not know how to balance it all and take care of myself when I lacked the time and the resources and the just the easy button to get myself on a trajectory toward better well-being. So at the time, I think I felt I needed to just lose weight, and really I needed to transform a lot of things in my life. And so I connected with a coach for the first time in my life. After being the girl who did it all on her own, I finally connected with somebody who gave me the easy button, and it kept it simple for me. I connected with an OPTAVIA coach, which basically we help individuals transform their lifestyle in baby steps. And I needed something simple because everything else was complicated. Yeah. So that gave me some tools. It gave me support and accountability and a cheerleader and a guide. And within a week, I felt like a new woman because I only had to think about 1 meal a day and the rest was figured out for me. And then it was, once my capacity had expanded, I felt like I could tackle more things, like working on my mindset work, which is a big part of it. I could work on my sleep. I could, I could start to incorporate some physical movement if it felt right, but I just needed that simple kickstart. And then we kind of transformed me slowly over about 3 months. And I seriously did feel like I had emerged in that season, that 3 months that it took me just to get to where I wanted to be from a healthy standpoint. I did feel like a new woman, and I felt like a better mom, and realized what that meant to try to serve or pour from an empty cup, and how better I felt when I could serve from a place of abundance, of health and well-being. Yeah. So that was a little bit of the backstory.
Yeah.
That's
really good. And it's something that I think, especially as women, no offense to the guys out there, but especially as women, I think sometimes we take on more than we can handle, and we don't realize we're doing it until it's already done. and then we realize we're kind of like, okay, well, now I'm miserable. Right. And so and I've been there too. And that's where you were talking about, like, that alignment. Tell us a little bit about like your upbringing, where you came from, family life, whatever that looked like.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that actually is, I'm glad you asked, because I feel like that is a piece of, some of the good in my past, but also then some of the struggle and how I got to where I was. So I was raised by amazing parents. Truthfully, they They were educators in my community, very influential. They had a healthy marriage example for me. My dad taught me lots of amazing life lessons, and they gave me faith. They planted seeds. They gave me faith mentors in my life. I'll be honest though, from that perspective, they practiced their faith very well and in a disciplined way. I did not. I was Kate led, not spirit led. And I thought I was controlling it all. And I thought if I showed up perfectly, everyone will just think my life is really rosy. And it wasn't. And so I kind of had this mask of perfection that was really hard to keep holding together. And then I started to really crumble. And then my dad actually, unfortunately, he passed away in 2008. This was right a few weeks after I found out I was pregnant with my first son. So some of like the busyness of motherhood wasn't there yet, but losing him really put my life into perspective and helped me to ask God to reveal to me that my dad was where I hoped he was. And he showed up. And slowly over time, there's been a big evolution of faith in my whole journey, Jody, but I started to just ask to see things and see miracles and slowly build a relationship with Jesus, which I never had. I practiced religion. I did all the classes and sacraments and things like that, but I was practicing religion, not growing spiritually. I didn't know there was a difference. I didn't have a relationship. So anyway, that's a big piece of my story too, that really has come about in just the past couple years, but my parents planted that seed, and it took me choosing to move forward and to finally, and I think truthfully, a lot of between grief, then coupled with motherhood very shortly thereafter, because my I had gotten pregnant and lost my dad simultaneously. And then bringing that baby into the world, still grieving, I was eating my feelings, and taking care of another human on top of that took total focus off me. And it was keep the career going, keep my family life going. And then I stopped doing things that brought me joy. And so it just slowly, I was leading further and further away from who I was created to be, who my parents told me I was, stopped believing in myself, stopped doing things that express creativity. So simply for me, making that decision that my physical health is not where I want it to be, and I need to pick something. So I started there and worked my way toward healthy. But then when there was always needed to be a what's next in a health journey, and in the program that I now coach, there's always a what's next. And for me, it was spiritual. And how do I learn to make sense of some of these things that happen, some of the choices that I made as a younger adolescent too, I'm not proud of everything that I did in my life by any means, but they taught me lessons. And so slowly with time, I've been able to connect with a deeper purpose to my losses, to my failures, and see how they've positioned me now for the work that I'm doing, which is much greater than just transformational coaching. I did make that decision this past year to step into that role completely and out of medicine to be, for a number of reasons, but a big part of that was that I felt called to this space to make a difference because there's so many that are struggling. And really, I feel that if we have tools of, giving people support and encouragement, ideas, and, even just mindset shifts, how much we can do. So yeah, you and I came into that picture a little bit further down the line in all of that, spiritual development was happening, but then I had a vision to create a space where people could share some of these stories, because I fell in love with authenticity. And I see you as someone who is so real too. And you share the good and the strong woman that you are, but you also share the moments of weakness And I admire that about you. When I met you, you know, I was just through this whole Convene process, you know, where I'm sure you share a lot with your audience about Convene and in how we connect people and how we teach through storytelling. It's funny because I saw, and I still see you as this just amazing person with so many different skills and things that you bring to the table. But I know you, and I know that sometimes you don't feel that way. And that's how I am too. It's like who am I to do this? But yet people, you know, they do admire, I think, more the courage that we have to be vulnerable. And I hope that if anything, I can inspire someone to do that, more of that. It's very freeing, isn't it?
It is. It is. And you were talking about, you know, trying to be perfect. Right. And I tell people now, you know, when I was doing bodybuilding and I was achieving a look, but it was the spiritual side that I was missing too. Right. Okay. So just because I looked a certain way, I was mentally crumbling. Mm-hmm. The look was masking the pain. So I literally just kept choosing things to mask the pain. Right. So it went from drinking too much when I would go out to going to the gym all hours. Right. It was now, of course, one was a little bit healthier than the other, but better for my liver. But you know, but it was still masking. And so it wasn't until I actually had to choose, like you said, to kind of look inward. And I will say it was my daughter that helped me out with that, because I had to turn the mirror around. She was showing me things that were coming from me, not from her. And it's interesting you were talking about, you know, losing your dad and being pregnant, because my mom passed away 3 months before my daughter was born. So yeah. And then I went off to PA school. Right. So it's I tell people now it's very easy to compartmentalize and suppress if you're used to doing that. But I know from personal experience, it will catch up with you eventually. Right. So I think it's important for us to be authentic, and it is freeing. It is so freeing not to have to be like anybody else or care what everybody else thinks, and just
for sure
be who we're meant to be, like you said, you know.
Yes, it's so true. And you know, the old me, knowing I'd be on Facebook Live, would have gone and curled my hair and put on something cute. That's not me. I wear leggings, and I don't wear that much makeup. I don't care. I'd rather just share my story and have that be what people hear than, you know, trying to impress. It's just, it's exhausting to wear the mask anymore. And I really feel like I want people, when they're around me, to feel like they could show up at my house in their pajamas and just sit and have coffee and talk to me. That's what I want. And I know that's what you want in the communities that we're creating. Yeah. So, you know, I've not really explained that, but I in Convene now have created a space after working with adolescents and parents for almost 20 years in medicine. I realized that the impact that I could make was when I got real with people. Yes. I remember vividly, it was one particular patient where I couldn't reach her, and she was struggling hardcore. I think she was somewhat suicidal and was blaming herself for all the choices she was making, desperately wanting to be wanted, and had a lot of trauma. So she was making decisions that were not healthy. Right. And coping with a lot of other unhealthy things. And I sat there, you know, as the PA with my stethoscope on, and she wouldn't connect with me. And she said, you know, I think we're going to need to just reschedule this appointment for 3 months from now and try again or something. So we were about to do that. And I had this urge, like, you need to tell her your story. And I turned around and I shut my laptop and I took my stethoscope off and I spilled my guts to her, and she bawled and she hugged me and she said, thank you for making me not feel weird. And after that moment, I realized that was my gift, is authenticity and true connection. And it's not what I knew from PA school. Right. It wasn't the degree that I had. It was that I had life experience that related to another human being and made them realize that that's not what defines you. And that's also not the path to true love. And, you know, if you can speak from, you know, I understand. And then, you know, months later, I find out she's turned her life around, and we stayed in touch. And she said, you know, I'll never forget you doing that for me. And so I wanted more of that. I wanted more of helping people feel seen and heard and understood. And that's what we do in Convene. We give them that platform to meet them right where they are. I mean, we can connect like this. We do some calls like on Zoom and things like that, but we can also just ask them a question and have them type a part of their story, and nobody knows it's them. It's called an experience. You know, I share maybe a little bit of my story in a video and ask you a question. And then, you know, you're the mom feeling all that heaviness of guilt. You can write how it resonates with you, but I won't even know it's you. Exactly. So it's so freeing to give them that source of just bearing their soul to other humans. And then realizing instantly when you read all the answers that you're not alone.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what we're up to. And it's pretty awesome.
No, and it's interesting. I don't know if you've kind of encountered this, but, you know, trying to get people to understand that is actually difficult. And I think it's because we're so used to not being seen and heard and understood. We're so used to putting on a mask. We're so used to only telling the highlights of our stories, right? And so now we have this thing over here that allows us to really get deep and share anything and everything. And people aren't used to that.
No, no, they're not. But it's called borrowed confidence. And when you can bring someone into a space and you start by, okay, I'm going to spill my guts to you today, you know, and then it's like, wow, she went there. Okay, well, I could say this, and you get a big, huge weight off your chest immediately. If, you know, it's not all about sharing your dirt, but it's a place where you can. Right. And some of it's just, you know, connecting with other individuals that might have a key to your breakthrough. And it's really just a member. They don't have a trail of degrees behind their name, but they have a story and they have expertise in their story. So I think people just feel like they're adding value there, and you grow to become more comfortable being more vulnerable, more seen, and not just heard through your typewritten words. So, you know, we give people that option to be themselves, camera on, here's me, or you can be camera off and still participate, or you could be a fly on the wall and let it grow to the point that, okay, now I'm going to share today. It doesn't matter. And you belong, you know?
That's what I tell people. I mean, that's how I started, you know, I started as the fly on the wall, you know, let me just listen in. And it was really getting around other people who were sharing their stories that actually allowed me to see that I could share mine. And it took a long time. And Matt will always tell people, like, Jody took a couple of years, so please don't take that long, right?
Yeah, it's so important to realize that somebody who's confident today was very much not that person yesterday. That is so me. I would never in a million years even speak up about anything that would rock the boat. I wanted to be under the radar and blend in and make everyone happy and have everybody like me. That was always my goal. But it didn't do me or anyone else any good for me to do that. And I don't believe we were created to blend in. I believe everybody has unique gifts and to share and to add value to the world. And you just need someone to tell you that you're amazing and remind you what those gifts are sometimes. Right. So, yeah.
That is so true. So talk a little bit. So how long have you when did you go to PA school and like become a PA?
Yeah, I started in 2001, graduated in 2003. It was about a 27-month program. And I worked in a pediatric clinic about 45 minutes from here for about 4 years, and then moved to my hometown. And I practiced medicine here for in Midland, Michigan for 15 years before making that leap, and had full support of my mentors and supervising physicians and staff there. They were wonderful. That was so hard. I loved practicing medicine and I feel like it made a big difference, but I realized that I was gifted in connecting to the heart and the soul and the minds of these kids, and the moms and dads needed it too. So between my health coaching or OPTAVIA coaching, where I could give them the tools and cheer them on and guide them, that made a healthier home environment. If mom and dad were getting healthy and implementing those habits at home, as a pediatric provider, I thought, gosh, there's a need for that. Because that's awareness. That's a key word in my journey, is I was blind to so much of what I was doing to myself, and how I was showing up for my husband, how I was showing up at home for my kids, with them getting all my leftovers. I thought I was doing my best, and I was, but I could do better if I kept my own fuel in my system, hydration, spirituality, just getting out and, taking a walk, things like that. You need that. And it makes you better at what you do. And people like a happier mom and a healthier mom and dad. So anyway, that was a big piece, but I also just, I realized that there were such a need in the mental health space, and to give people tools for emotional wellness. It's not just saying mental health all the time, mental health, you have a problem, you have a disorder. No, you are a human being experiencing extremely normal emotions that I have too. And here's how I navigated that. And not everyone needs a counselor. They can't help the whole world.
Right.
Sometimes you just need a coach,
right,
or a team behind you, or a community saying, I see you, I hear you, I love you. Come join us in this space where people are learning how to thrive. And if you're ready for change, we'll show you how. That's all that Convene is. And that's what, I have a parenting community called Uniquely Yours, and I have a teen and young adult community called Uniquely You. And we basically connect as professionals and members to teach one another how to thrive. And it's pretty cool. I'm excited about having that resource to give to. I'll return that back to the clinic where I worked at some point, with a little more of ease of how to get people in there and explain it. We're kind of just beta testing a lot of it, and there's activity, it's happening. We're bringing on people on calls and stuff, but it's anyway, it's just it's neat to see it starting to come from a dream and not knowing how that was going to happen. And I totally give God the glory in that one, to connecting me with Convene, where what I wrote on a piece of paper actually was built for me to create with a team behind me, not me. So I did not do this by myself. And you don't do anything by yourself. You have a team in your health and wellness space. And that's what I talked to Matt, the founder of Convene, today. We talked about synergy, and synergy and energy are two different things. You can have your own energy and your own motivation, but our motivation on our own often tanks really fast because we get in our own head. If you have people surrounding you that are on the same mission and they have the same passion, and they're in maybe a better space than you are that day, it's like, oh, I get that. That's hard, but you're really amazing. So let's pull you back up out of the muck and keep going, because it's easier to just give up. And that's also, what I get with my health community is thousands of people saying, you've got this, don't give up on yourself. Come on, we've still got work to do. And you can feel those emotions for less of a duration. We all are going to have them every day. I have anxiety. I have feelings of sadness, feelings of grief every day. But you can feel those and still move forward.
And we are proof of that, right? Like I tell people, and I just had a psych evaluation yesterday for the VA, and I still have PTSD, and I still have depression, and I still have anxiety. And guess what? I'm gonna have it for the rest of my life. And that's okay, because now I know, right? Now I'm aware, and now I have tools that can help me through that. And if those tools can help me, then I know they can help anybody else. And so that's where I kind of have shifted through my own mental health journey to be able to understand, like, oh, it's not just the fitness and nutrition part that they need, it's the everything.
It's everything. It's mind, body, spirit. If spirit's a part of it, it isn't for everybody, but whole health is extremely important.
Mhm.
If you don't mind too, I really wanted today to speak about, because we share this too, Jody, is ADHD. And I didn't recognize that in myself until I had a child with ADHD.
There you go. Exactly.
And that's often how it is, where it's like, it's that awareness, like you're the mirror in front of your face. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's me. And so acknowledging it, connecting with people who share that as adults. What are you doing? Because I don't medicate myself or anything, but
Yep.
I have connected with amazing people who have taught me executive functioning skills, who have taught me some supplements I can try. There's a brain health professional in my Uniquely Yours space that teaches parents how to understand their child's brain
Right.
and what they can do about it. His name is Jim Hendricks.
He was just on the podcast. Actually, his just came out. So yeah.
Yeah, he sat with my son and me and my husband, and I learned about me, and I learned about him, and I learned what we can do as a team. And that's my goal with all of this, is to learn resources that help me to move forward, but to share them. Like, if I just learn all of this and I'm thriving in my own little bubble, what good am I in the world?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And my world starts here, and then it ripples into my home, and then it ripples into the communities around me. And
Right.
I think it all has to start with your own level of awareness and trying to be the best you first.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and I want to take the time to acknowledge you for that, because, and you, I know, a lot of moms. I know I talk to moms all the time, and and I've been there, right? And you've been there. So we can relate a little bit differently, but it's difficult to acknowledge because it's easier to hide it.
yes, it is.
But I will tell people out there, and I say this all the time to people, and I'm sure you do too, when we begin to acknowledge, we begin to build a new foundation. Because it's interesting, and I never really thought about this, because when I didn't get through PA school and I was trying nursing, and okay, well, I'm just going to go be a doctor, right? Like I was literally just trying everything, and those doors were shutting, and I didn't understand it back then. But fast forward, when my daughter did get diagnosed with ADHD, I had the tools to help her not be miserable from the medications, because we tried the medications. They were very low dosage, but her stomach was hurting really badly. And at this time she was 7, and she was playing basketball, was coaching. It really hurt my heart that my daughter was coming home from school and her stomach would be hurting so badly. And we tried 3 different medications. And I finally just dug in, and I did the same thing I did with my mom, because my mom had multiple sclerosis. She was diagnosed bipolar. She was hyperthyroid. She also contracted HIV. And so there was all these medications getting thrown at her. And some of the antidepressants were making her more suicidal because they were interacting with other medications that she was taking, right? So that's when I dug in with nutrition, and I took pharmacology. I didn't even have to back then, but I took it because I was determined to learn how these medications. So that's what I did with my daughter later on. And I'm grateful now, because when I reached out to her pediatrician and I said, hey, I found this amazing study. It talks about autism and ADHD and the lack of protein in the brain. And I reached out to her and I said, hey, would you mind reading this? Because I always want the professional to kind of, because I didn't go through medical school, right? So I want the professional to look at that and say, yeah, I think that's great, whatever. Well, her pediatrician got back with me and said, Jody, you would know more about that than I would. She said, do what you need to do. And I was like, well, all right. So that's exactly what we did. And I talked to my daughter and I said, hey, we're going to go get these branched chain amino acids. So that's why I teach about BCAAs and protein and stuff like that. And we did. And we started implementing that. And I literally took her off the meds right after that.
I can relate to
healthier. And so, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. And when I did my evaluation yesterday, the lady, she said, we can prescribe you medication. I said, no, I'm good on that. So I think that what you do is very important too. And what we're all doing is very important, because I think sometimes, we prescribe I don't want to say I didn't, but when you prescribe medications, you're giving something to someone that can help. But at the same
Mhm.
time, sometimes they end up masking the pain. They end up masking what really the problem is,
Yeah.
and when we have trauma and we have things in our lives that we haven't really worked through,
Hmm.
those medications can't really help us. They're just temporary fixes to a long-term problem.
So true. Yes. So it there's places for it, and we have gone that path
Mhm.
as well, but it's come sometimes with a lot of side effects and tweaking and all the things. And
Right.
it's still not a perfect world, but we're able to, because of the things I've learned with Jim, supplements and techniques we can use and all of these different strategies. I'm able to find a balance where I can keep my kid and his sweet personality, and and still have him thriving, but still able to focus. So
Right.
there's not a perfect science, but I think what the most important thing is, parents need to do something, and they need to learn, and they need to feel empowered that they can do more than just like, okay, the psychiatrist or the doctor fix it or the counselor fix it. What can I do as a
Right.
mom? And if in nutrition, people don't understand how much that impacts our psychiatric conditions, or just our mind in general. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Food and mood and all of the things and how they are interconnected. I didn't understand that until I understood it from
Right.
experience. So yeah, I think it's exciting just to put yourself into that space of being a lifelong learner. And what you also said, I think, is something important for kids to understand, is you were pursuing this PA career. Kids are scared out of their minds they're going to pick the wrong thing.
Hmm.
And every step of the way, you're going to learn something that will give you valuable tools for something you're going to need them for at some point in life. You're
Right.
not going to make a wrong decision.
Right.
You'll know if roadblocks come, that's not your path, and that's
Right.
okay. But if you're open-minded to taking some of the value from that and seeing the blessings in it, then it might take years down the line
Hmm.
before you do. But I'm grateful for every step of the way that I've had, and the struggles, and
Hmm.
and right
Yeah.
now, truthfully, the reason that I'm able to do what I'm doing and all of this is I was able to find a way to free up additional time. I was the exhausted mom who had
Yeah.
no time to investigate and learn any more than I was already learning, and all of that. But I I found ways to free up time I was wasting.
Hmm.
Eventually, obviously, moving into a different career where I'm my own boss helped a lot too. But
Yes.
even just where are you wasting time scrolling on meaningless things where you're just comparing your life to
Yes.
someone else's, where you could be in the learner's seat? Like, get
Exactly.
yourself out of toxic social media world and into maybe it is still a virtual space, but it's life-giving here,
Right.
if you
Yeah.
can make time for that, and the relationships, your life, their life matters enough, you'll make the time. We all have the same 24 hours, and you'll
That's
feel like a better parent when you're equipped with tools. And
right.
that's our big goal. And you contribute so much of your own story and your own parenting, even just your upbringing in there. And I can't thank you enough for your vulnerability. I'm so grateful.
Well, it's taken me a long time to get here.
Yeah.
I didn't always share that. And even, I tell people now, even when I published my book, like in the nutrition chapter, I didn't really share the whole backstory. I didn't share how watching my mom suffer is what got me into nutrition. I just kind of
Mhm.
share how to start, and so, Brenda and I are kind of linking up. She's going to help me kind of rebrand the book, because that's an important part of the story, and so I haven't always been there. But I will say I'm grateful for Matt, the founder of
Yeah.
Convene. He's been my main mentor. He's always that person I can reach out to and talk to. Um, and just the Convene family, you
Mhm.
guys, you shared your story, and that kind of helped me open up a little bit. Eugene shared his, and that helps me open up a little bit, because now I feel safe.
Yeah.
Right. So that was the biggest thing with me, is just getting myself around people who I felt safe around to where I could start sharing my story, the parts that I
Absolutely.
really didn't even want to share, you know. And now
Yeah.
that's why now I'm able to. And I also had to learn how to remove myself out of, pull myself out of the way and not make it about me, because when it's
Mhm.
about me, I'm very nervous speaking in front of people, right? Like, but if I realize, like, my purpose is to help other people, and if I speak out on these things, I'm helping a lot of other people. Now it's not about me anymore.
Yeah.
And what I've told people now, and maybe you feel this too, the more we talk about it, the more we heal.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I believe our soul's kind of like the garbage dump of our body. Like that's where everything piles up. We talked about poop a lot in pediatric
Yeah,
medicine. Like all your
exactly.
poop gets constipated into the bowels of your soul. And then you get to the point where you like can't hold anymore. You're impacted. Right.
Exactly.
And so it starts with our thoughts and like, okay, I'm ready to change. Well, that's great, but write it down. Start
Yes.
there. Like actually writing it down puts energy into the fact you're writing yourself a promise. Okay, I'm taking it from here and I'm going to move it to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And then talking about it though moves it to your soul and you're declaring that to the world and publicly. If you can do that, watch out. That's going to be much more impactful, but it releases that impaction that's been sitting there and it's freeing and it
Yes.
makes you live healed and
Yeah.
not hurt and it's not your trauma, and your trauma is your story and that's always
Right.
going to be there, but it's not binding you up and limiting you and restricting you from being who you were made to be. It helps
Exactly.
shape you into that strong person that you are. And I think like just me looking at you and talking to you and knowing your story, that's when I share now. And I know it's hard for you and you've been so brave, at that event to share and everything. I think if you can look in the audience and think you're talking to somebody who's dealing with what you've been through, then you are removed from that picture and you can speak to them out of love of, I see you and I understand, and you don't need to stay there, and just link arms and let's work through that on your time and at
Right.
your level, at your entry
That
point of
part.
comfort.
Yeah, that
Yes.
part. I will say my journey has made me a lot more humbled, as far as being able to meet people where they are. And I'm sure
Mhm.
you're the same way, right? Because now we know, like, none of this happens overnight. None of it. Business, life,
Yeah.
health, none of it happens overnight. So I'm grateful that I've gone through the hard journey, because now I can be more patient with people. I do understand that not everybody's ready, and I just say, hey, just hit me up when you are, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think it does allow us to be, just more genuine and more
Mhm.
real with people, and just let people understand, like, hey, I will never tell you it's easy. Like,
Right.
if you want easy, I'm not the person for you. I tell people that all the time. Like, if you want easy, don't come over here. It's not going to be
It
easy.
isn't. It isn't easy.
But
It's daily,
it's
daily
rewarding.
commitment.
It's
Mhm.
rewarding though. That's the piece. That's the piece.
Highly.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Real quickly, I want to talk a little bit about the Uniquely You community, because I know we kind of went
Absolutely.
over it a little bit, but that one's important to me a little bit because I have a 13-year-old as well, who did
Yeah.
engage in there. So,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it was, we've talked about this before, but being the mom, being able to talk to my kid without her knowing I was talking to her.
Mhm. Mhm.
So talk a little bit about that community and what you foresee, what you're kind of looking for in there.
Of course, yes. So when members enter, we have a discussion board in there, and that's what you're referring to. She
Hmm.
posted an anonymous post about a situation she had with a friend,
Hmm.
and you are one of the members of that space, and you were able to pour back into her anonymously. And when it's mom, it's like, oh, mom doesn't
Right.
know what she's talking about.
Exactly.
But I bet she looked at that advice and thought, wow, that really was good advice, because
Yeah.
it just removes that relationship and it's a
Yep.
human to a human. So we have that feature where you can respond and post anonymously. we have experiences, which I did touch on. We have several of those. We have one called I Am From, which is hugely impactful.
Yes.
Matt Curran's daughter, Lainey, wrote a poem in the 9th grade that talked about the things that shaped her into who she was at that time, good and troubling experiences. And you simply read the poem and then you get asked, where are you from? What makes you who you are? Not what city are you from? And you type it in and no one knows you're you. So we're getting kids' traumas, and we're getting a growth mindset kid teaching a fixed mindset kid in the same space with their answers, not like, I know it's you. And so you're relating it to your own life, and then you're able to see all those answers in one compiled list, and you pick and choose what resonates with you and how you can move forward and formulate an ultimate lesson learned. That's called collaborative learning. And it's experiential learning, but it is in a collaborative format, and it's really powerful. It's the most powerful feature of all of Convene, is to give people a place to tell their stories anonymously just through their answer and how something resonates. So there's that in there. And there's also groups. We see peer-to-peer mentorship groups, like where you could maybe be a youth pastor that hosts a group of kids, and you can put them in a private group in My Uniquely You. And all those kids can interact with each other anonymously or themselves. All those features exist. It's like a hierarchy, like a mall. So it's like the mall for discovering who you were created to be. You're going to maybe go into only a couple stores of the mall that matter to you. But then you'll find your people there and you'll interact with them. It's a really unique and special space. And then we're also going to be starting monthly Real Talk Zooms. I'm partnered with an empowerment coach named Amy Krause, and Amy travels around to schools and talks to kids about kindness starts with me, loving yourself. It's self-love, so that you can be right with you and grow in confidence to better serve the world in your own unique way, and not try to be something you're not, and not try to conform, and just to celebrate your uniqueness. That's the heart of what Uniquely You is all about. So she fit perfectly, has her own stories that she's very real about. And so we're going to bring people into a private group that we it's a little different. It's a public community, but this is a private sector for those who really want to take it to the next level. And we'll bring them on monthly to talk with us and bring speakers in that inspire them. And it's just going to be really cool to see how things shape out as we keep going. We've got really amazing people.
I love it. I think cyberbullying, with social media, I think this is also very important for parents to understand. Everyone on this platform is vetted. We don't have spammers. We don't have any cyberbullying. We don't have any of that. We have people coming around and supporting each other in their journeys, no matter how old they are. Right. So I really wanted to kind of point that out, because I think people don't really understand the difference sometimes. And that's one of the things that I tell people, like, I'm okay with having my kid on here.
And I teach them in Uniquely You how to, there's never been one thing in the entire existence of Convene that has had to be removed for inappropriateness. So that tells you something right there, that you're coming with intentionality, and it's a very quiet, reflective space. People who are cyberbullies don't want to reflect. They want to attack, and they don't even get it. They're not going to take the time. You have to understand the purpose behind it. It's a platform with a purpose. So anyway, even if there was, we teach you how to be a moderator and how to let me know, even though I'm in there, even though I'm watching it, I have other people watching it. Things would not last long in that space without having somebody be able to point it out and say, I'm concerned either for the well-being of this child. We have, yes, there's anonymity there. If we had to, we could dig to find out if there was a child who was in harm's way. We're not going to do that to figure out like, ooh, that's some dirt. I'm going to look up who that was. No, we're not. But if there was if there was ever a concern, that's another parent concern. What if someone's suicidal? Well, we give them ways to connect with people who can help. This is a space to create wellness. I'm not the PA here. I'm the human being who, and the transformation coach here. But here's how to connect with people who can help. And we have a way to figure it out if there's somebody in harm's way.
Yeah.
And how to remove the yuck if it ever came to that.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I tell people too. Like, I mean, we're not going to dig into anything unless we have to. Like, if somebody were to come on there and say, hey, I plan on killing myself tomorrow, we have to dig into that. We have
Right.
to. But for the most part, we just want to be here with you, and we want to support you and encourage you and empower you. And no matter which community you go to, that's what you're going to get. So, just I'm really grateful that we have come together, and I'm grateful for Matt for that vision, actually, because if he hadn't had the vision, we wouldn't be able to use it, right? Like,
No.
and like
It's
you
so
said,
crazy.
like you said, like, when you have this vision, like even I had like this massive vision, but it was like, how do I do this? How do I do this? Okay, I have the vision, but how do I do it? Right? Like, send me the people.
Yes.
And there we go. Like,
you seriously just have to put yourself in new rooms and have conversations. And that's how it came to be, is enough conversations of my vision happened where I landed on Jeff Bateson, who was on the Convene team. He said, oh my goodness, I have exactly what you need, and I want to build it with you.
nice.
I'm like, what?
Yeah. Even better.
Yeah. So anyway, here we are, and it's happening. And
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm so grateful as well that Matt's continued to believe in what God put on his heart that led to me years down the line. And I'm sure will help a lot of other visionaries dream come true as well, to give them the resource. That's what Convene is. It's a resource,
right?
And a platform to use that's life-giving if you want to make a big impact. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's how people, it doesn't matter what title anybody has, right? We're always more than that title, whether we want to believe it or see it, or we're always more than that title. I don't care who you are. You have something else in you besides the title you've been given by society. So,
it's so true, Jody.
we just come in here and be part of this movement and see where we're going with this. Definitely connect with Kate. Kate, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
I would say right now, probably through Facebook. Kate Landis Gallihugh is my, private messages, and through Convene. But you can, if you go there, you'll see my story. It's the pinned post is my video that you were talking about. And there's links into my communities, but I want people to understand what it looks like first. Yeah. So once you get into there, there's ways to connect with me as well. But, for my coaching and all of that, I have links in my Facebook. It's the platform I use the most. I'm growing, I'm stretching myself to get into other spaces, but that's the one I use every day. And I build a lot of relationships through Messenger and stuff like that. So that's the best place to find me.
Okay. And I'll make sure I put all that information inside the write-up so that way people have it. But I do want to put in kind of a shameless plug that Convene Communities is sponsoring this episode of the podcast. So yay, we have our first sponsorship.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we are sponsored by Convene Communities, and we're also sponsored by First Approved Financial. First Approved Financial is actually, I'm the transformation coach for them now, and we are actually helping businesses grow. So we help people either start their LLC, or if they already have an LLC, we help them with business funding and business credit and all those things that I needed when I first started mine.
That's awesome, Jody.
Yeah, congrats. So I'm grateful for all of that. Kate, thank you so much. Thank you for coming on and just sharing a piece of your story and just allowing this to be another platform that you share on, and hopefully we can get this out to as many people as possible. And we're just going to keep growing this thing as much as possible and see where it goes. But I do appreciate you being vulnerable and genuine today. And, I just keep going. You're an amazing
Thank
person.
you, friend.
So
it's a pleasure to be here and an honor. So thank you so much.
No problem. You guys, this has been another episode of Breaking Barriers Now. My guest today is Kate Gallihugh, and you have to connect with us inside of the Convene Communities platform. You just have to. No ifs, ands, or buts. You just have to.
Agreed.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day, everyone.